Hey there and welcome. Today we are going to unpack a really powerful and maybe a little unconventional technique for all you screenwriters out there. This comes straight from a professional scenario guide, and it's all about how to find the very soul of your story before you even type fade in.
So every writer has been here. You know this struggle. You've got the plot figured out, you've got your characters, but how do you actually nail that specific, intangible feeling? That unique emotional atmosphere that really makes a story stick with you.
Well, the answer probably isn't where you'd think to look. It's not something you're going to find in a typical writing class or another how-to book. The secret is actually hiding in plain sight, or I guess more accurately, in plain hearing. That's right, the original soundtrack, the OST. Today, we're going to explore exactly how a film's soundtrack can become your secret weapon for crafting a truly powerful and resonant screenplay.
Okay, so the screenplay's hidden weapon. How can an OST be your creative compass? You might be thinking, it's just music, right? But I want you to think of it less like simple background music and more like a creative compass. It's a tool that can guide literally everything, from your story's overall tone to the rhythm of the entire narrative.
All right, let's dive into the first big one, capturing the story's tone. How can a soundtrack help you set the entire mood for your screenplay right from the start?
So think about it. A typical movie soundtrack has, about 15 tracks on it. Just by listening to that collection of music, you can basically download the complete emotional DNA of that film. It's an incredible shortcut to absorbing its entire mood in a really short amount of time.
So the process itself is actually pretty simple, but it's so powerful. You listen to the reference film's OST, you absorb that established emotional tone, and then you channel it directly into your new screenplay. This is how you build a really consistent, intentional atmosphere right from page one.
Okay, so we've looked at the big picture. Now let's zoom in a little bit, down to the small details. This is about enriching individual scenes and how you can use single tracks to build really powerful moments.
And this brings us to a really cool technique called scene track matching. I mean, every track on a soundtrack has its own unique vibe, right? The whole idea is to find one that perfectly matches the emotion you're trying to create in a specific scene. So for example, imagine you're writing a really tense heist sequence. You could put on a track like Hans Zimmer's Why So Serious from The Dark Knight, just to tap into that feeling of escalating, calculated chaos.
And here's the game plan, step by step. First, you figure out the core emotion of your scene. Then, you hunt for an OST track that just screams that emotion. Now here's the key. You actually write the scene while you're listening to that track on repeat. The music becomes this direct emotional pipeline, and it helps you create a way richer, much more vivid scene.
Okay, let's zoom back out again. We've covered the overall tone and individual scenes, but an OST can also help you master something much bigger, the overall flow, the rhythm of your entire story.
I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? A soundtrack isn't some random playlist. It is structured to follow the film's emotional journey. The music gets louder, it gets quieter, it speeds up and slows down right alongside the plot. It's literally a blueprint for the story's pacing.
So here is the most crucial point. When you listen to an entire OST from start to finish, you start to internalize the flow of that narrative. You can actually feel its unique pulse. And that gives you an incredibly powerful model for how to structure the emotional rises and falls in your own screenplay.
And finally, let's talk about that moment every writer just dreads. You know the one, when you get stuck. The page is blank, the ideas just aren't coming. Well, an OST can be your lifeline.
See, by keeping that reference soundtrack playing while you write, you stay completely immersed in the emotional world you're trying to build. And this continuous immersion, this can lead to some amazing moments of discovery. You might just stumble upon that one decisive clue, or have a breakthrough that solves a plot problem you've been banging your head against for days.
So, to wrap it all up, just think of the OST as your personal screenwriter's toolkit. With it, you can capture your overall tone, you can enrich your individual scenes, you can clarify the narrative flow, and you can even unlock breakthroughs to beat writer's block. It really is so much more than just music.
And that leaves us with one last question for you. As you start working on your next project, I want you to really think about the story you want to tell, its feeling, its rhythm, its heart. And then ask yourself, for your next screenplay, which OST will you listen to?